Ever feel like you're just drowning in information? You want to understand a complex topic, but you wish there was just a faster way, a shortcut to what really matters.
Well, that's exactly what we do here on the Deep Dive. We cut through all that noise, get you the key insights fast. Today, we're diving deep into a really vital piece of healthcare tech, the Clinical Data Management System market. You'll hear it called CDMS. And our guide for this is a pretty detailed forecast from Cognitive Market Research. It maps things out from, let's see, 2021 right through to 2033.
Exactly. And our mission today really is to unpack this pretty remarkable growth we're seeing in CDMS. We want to understand what's pushing it forward, look at the key numbers, the regions, and ultimately explore what all this means for medical research, for innovation, and yeah, for patient care down the line. Because what's so interesting here is how this market tackles a huge challenge in medicine today. Managing that absolute explosion of data from clinical trials. How do you do it effectively, securely? That's a great point. So maybe before we jump into the big numbers, just quickly, for anyone who's heard the term CDMS but isn't quite sure, what exactly is it? And why is it suddenly so critical?
Right. So think of a CDMS. It's not just a database. It's more like the central nervous system for a clinical trial. It's this sophisticated software that handles basically everything, from finding patients, getting consent electronically, capturing data in real time, uh, managing queries, making sure everything meets strict regulations. Honestly, without these robust CDMS platforms, clinical research would just be, well, a mess. Fragmented, full of errors, incredibly slow. It's really the engine. It powers the efficiency, the integrity, the speed of developing new medicines today. Turns all that potential data chaos into organized, useful insights.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. It's the hidden infrastructure behind the breakthroughs. And when we look at the global picture for this infrastructure, the growth is, well, it's pretty striking. The report says the global CDMS market was worth just under $2.2 billion back in 2021, but it's projected to rocket up to nearly $9.8 billion by 2033.
Yeah, almost $9.8 billion. And that works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 13.274%. Now, what's really significant about that number, it isn't just that it's big growth. It tells you the market's more than doubling roughly every 6 years. This isn't just like slow organic expansion. It signals a fundamental shift globally in how clinical trials are actually run. We're decisively moving away from older, paper-based ways towards these highly integrated digital platforms. And that 13+% tells you this is a solid, sustained trend, not just a blip.
Okay, that's the big picture. Let's maybe break it down by region, because I imagine that's where you see the different forces really playing out. North America, for instance. It's a leading region, right? The numbers show it went from about $961 million in 2021, projected to hit $1.56 billion by 2025, and then climbing over $4.1 billion by 2033. So given North America's kind of advanced position in health tech, is its growth mostly about upgrading existing systems or just more trials happening?
That's a good question. It's really a bit of both, but maybe leaning towards the sophistication side. The region's growing at about 12.859% annually, so
Mhm.
still very strong. Within North America, the U.S. is definitely the leader. Its revenue is forecast to go from around $767 million in 21 to over $3.2 billion by 2033. A lot of that growth comes from a high volume of really complex trials. Think oncology, rare diseases, stuff that demands really cutting-edge data management. But Canada and Mexico are also showing really healthy, consistent double-digit growth too. Canada's KIGR is actually slightly higher than the U.S., interestingly. Their growth reflects, more investment in research infrastructure and getting aligned with those broader North American standards.
Okay, so that's the established player, North America. Let's pivot to Europe. Are we seeing similar things happening there, or is it different because of all the diverse healthcare systems?
Yeah, Europe's definitely a major player too, no question. Its market grew from about $513 million in 21, and it's heading towards nearly $2.175 billion by 2033. That's growing at a very solid 12.835% annually. Pretty similar to North America, actually. And what these European trends tell you about the bigger picture, the regulatory landscape, is there's this clear, consistent push towards adopting these advanced clinical data technologies everywhere. Countries like the UK, they're projected to reach over $340 million by 2033. In Germany, set to hit over $471 million. They're really strong drivers. But you also see France, Italy, Russia, Spain, Sweden, all showing consistent growth, usually somewhere between like 11.4% and 13.6% CAGR. This widespread investment just shows there's this collective agreement that CDMS is essential. You need it for efficient, compliant research now.
Right. Okay, now let's turn to what might be the most dynamic part of this story. The Asia Pacific region. This area really stands out. Highest growth figures globally. Revenue goes from just over $436 million in 2021, and it's projected to surge like exponentially to over $2.2 billion by 2033. That's a KGR of 14.49%. That's noticeably faster than North America or Europe. What is going on there? What's driving that acceleration?
Yeah, that acceleration in Asia-Pacific it's truly remarkable. It really is. Within the region, China's a huge contributor, obviously. Its market's growing from about $128 million to over $667 million by 2033. Big numbers. But India's just surging, going from roughly $70 million to over $385 million. And get this, its CAGR is an incredible 15.296%. That's the highest growth rate of any major market in the whole report.
50% plus.
Yeah. And it's not just about growing populations, though. That's part of it. It reflects this combination of factors. You've got a strong talent pool for clinical research there, lower operational costs, which attract international trials, and governments really pushing digital health infrastructure. It's just India is rapidly becoming this global hub, especially for early stage and maybe more cost-effective clinical development. It really underlines that the move to digital trials is particularly strong across Asia, driven by these specific economic and strategic advantages.
That's fascinating. A region really poised for explosive growth. And it's not just the giants, is it? South America's CDMS revenue is growing steadily, too, from $131 million in 21 to over $609 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 13.6%, and that includes markets like Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile, all showing consistent double-digit growth. So what's underpinning that movement in South America?
Well, this pattern across continents just highlights this universal need, right, for better data management. In South America, what we're seeing is increasing investment in healthcare infrastructure generally, and they're participating more in global clinical trials, especially for diseases that are common in that region. So that drive towards digital transformation, it's becoming kind of unavoidable if you want to meet international research standards. And similarly, the Middle East is seeing significant expansion. Its revenue climbed from about $105 million in 21, projected to reach over $481 million by 2033. That's driven by a strong CGR, too, around 13.5%. Countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Turkey, Egypt, they're all showing mid to high teens growth. It reflects the strong regional commitment to modernizing healthcare data, often as part of bigger national development plans.
Okay. And finally, Africa is also clearly on this growth path, from $46 million in 21 to over $211 million by 2033. A CAGR around 12.5%. Markets like Nigeria, South Africa leading the way there. So stepping back a bit from all these individual figures, what does this really widespread, pretty aggressive expansion tell us about the bigger picture, medical R&D globally?
Yeah, looking at it all together, this little surge makes it crystal clear. The CDMS sector is experiencing genuinely robust expansion. Everywhere, every continent. It's led by Asia Pacific in terms of speed, followed closely by North America and Europe in terms of size, but it's consistent growth across the board. And fundamentally, it's fueled by just more clinical trial activity worldwide. You've got aging populations, new diseases emerging, general advances in medical science. It all means more trials. Then there's regulatory modernization. Lots of countries are pushing for more standardized digital auditable data. You need systems for that. And just the overall digitization of healthcare systems makes CDMS, well, it's essential now. It's not just a nice to have. It's the backbone for efficient, compliant research. All this ensures the market isn't just growing, it's really trekking forward robustly through the next decade.
Right. Well, that really wraps up our deep dive into this clinical data management system market forecast. It's quite powerful, actually, to see how something that might seem like a niche tech area like CDMS is seeing such profound, really essential growth. And understanding these trends, like you said, helps connect the dots in the wider healthcare landscape. We've seen the impressive overall growth, and crucially, we've got a handle on the drivers, more trials, regulatory changes, and just that relentless march of digitization.
Absolutely. And as this CDMS market keeps expanding so aggressively, fueled by all that trial activity and the regulatory shifts we talked about, maybe consider this. How might this huge, organized wave of clinical data fundamentally transform the speed and the precision of medical breakthroughs? And then thinking further, how might that reshape the very nature of patient care for you in the coming decade? Could it make diagnoses faster, treatments much more targeted? Could it make personalized medicine finally feel like a tangible reality?
That is a profound thought to end on. Something definitely worth reflecting on, the huge implications of managing data this well for the future of health, medicine, and how it really does impact all of us directly. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Okay, imagine this. You're trying to create the next life-saving drug, right? but you're just drowning in data. Information flooding in from clinical trials everywhere, all over the world. Critical insights hidden under, I don't know, mountains of spreadsheets. How do you even find the breakthroughs? And maybe more importantly, how do you make sure it's all accurate? I mean, lives are literally on the line. It's this huge challenge for modern medicine. But there's this vital, often unseen technology sort of quietly managing it all. We're about to take a deep dive into it.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, I think, and often goes unnoticed, is this silent revolution happening with clinical data management systems. CDMS, for short, it's really reshaping the very foundation of how we do clinical research, how we develop drugs. Think of it like the essential tool that doesn't just organize, but actually helps make sense of that massive data explosion. It really drives faster progress in healthcare.
Right, so our mission today is basically to cut through that complexity, give you a shortcut, really, to understanding this absolutely crucial behind-the-scenes tech. We're going to unpack the drivers, what's pushing CDMS forward, the hurdles it's facing, and some really transformative trends shaping its future. You should walk away understanding why this isn't just about tech, but about people, and how it directly impacts finding new medicines. Okay, so let's get into the why. Why is this market expanding so fast? It seems directly linked to the speed of global health innovation itself, doesn't it?
It absolutely is, yeah. One of the biggest drivers is just the sheer increase in clinical trials and drug development work happening globally. Pharma companies, biotech firms, they're all pushing harder. This leads to trials that aren't just bigger, but way more complex, often spread across different countries, different patient groups.
And in that kind of environment, high stakes, huge volumes of data, a solid CDMS sounds less like a nice to have and more like, well, the central nervous system for the whole thing. What makes it so vital?
Exactly. You nailed it. Beyond just handling the sheer amount of data, these systems are critical for ensuring data integrity right from the start when it's collected. They let researchers get faster insights, more reliable ones, and, crucially, they help maintain strict regulatory compliance. Honestly, without a CDMS trying to manage the immense, varied data from a big global trial, it would be practically impossible. Everything would just grind to a halt.
And that regulatory pressure you mentioned, that's a whole other beast, right?
Yeah.
Agencies like the FDA, the EMA in Europe, others globally, they demand data that's transparent, traceable, completely audit-ready for any new drug approval. How does CDMS actually meet that specific challenge?
That's really where these platforms prove their worth. They're specifically built to align with really strict guidelines, like Good Clinical Practice GCP and specific standards like 21 CFR Part 11 that governs electronic records. So this ensures every bit of data collected hits the highest levels for quality, for security, for reliability. It's where, accuracy meets accountability, creates this unbroken chain of trust that regulators need.
Okay, that makes sense. And it's pretty clear this shift towards these next-gen platforms, especially cloud-based, software as a service, SaaS, CDMS. It's not just about moving stuff to the cloud. It feels more fundamental.
Oh, it really is a total game changer. And it's not just what they do, but how they change the research landscape. We're talking about huge advantages here, like significant cost savings compared to the old on-premise systems, much better scalability, and they make global collaboration so much easier. Because these solutions give you real-time access to trial data, they're basically foundational for this boom in decentralized trials and remote working. Plus, they enable that crucial integration with things like electronic health records, EHRs, digital monitoring tools, even wearables. All of that drastically speeds up trial timelines and makes things way more efficient. It's a quiet revolution, really, making research more nimble.
So, okay, we've got this picture of incredible growth, lots of innovation, but usually any big leap forward hits some speed bumps. What are the main challenges holding back even wider CDMS adoption?
That's a really important question. One of the biggest hurdles, honestly, is still the high cost of implementation and training. We're talking serious investments, licensing fees, setting it up, customizing it, then ongoing maintenance. For smaller organizations, that's a heavy lift.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. That initial cost can be a real blocker, can't it?
Yeah.
Especially for smaller contract research organizations, CROs, or academic research groups. The sheer expense of getting staff onboarded and properly trained on these complex systems, it can just be too much, which, inevitably slows down how fast these innovations can spread.
Absolutely. And tied into that is the growing worry around data privacy and cybersecurity. As all this clinical trial data gets more digital, gets shared more widely across platforms, across borders, the risks just multiply. We've seen more cyber breaches, unfortunately, data leaks, problems complying with major privacy laws like HIPAA here in the US or GDPR over in Europe. If companies don't have really robust cybersecurity in place, they risk, well, losing trust from everyone involved, facing huge lawsuits, and just major disruptions to their work. It's a constant balancing act.
Right. And it feels like an age-old tech problem, doesn't it?
Mm.
System integration,
Mhm.
compatibility issues. You still hear about places stuck with older legacy systems that just don't communicate well with modern CDMS platforms.
Oh, that's a huge one, yeah. The complexity of getting a CDMS to talk smoothly with everything else in the research ecosystem, EHRs, lab systems, those electronic patient-reported outcome tools, EPRO, it's immense. When they don't connect properly, you end up with fragmented data, like little silos everywhere, duplicated records, inefficient processes. It really hinders research progress and drives up costs. It's
Yeah.
like having puzzle pieces that don't quite fit together.
But okay, looking forward now. Despite those real challenges, the CDMS market is also seeing some genuinely exciting transformative trends. It's not just about managing data better anymore. It feels like it's rethinking how clinical research even gets done.
That's exactly right, yeah. The first major trend that really jumps out is the growing role of artificial intelligence, AI, and automation, particularly in data cleaning. AI and machine learning are starting to revolutionize this whole process, streamlining how data is validated, automating how discrepancies are found and fixed, supporting risk-based monitoring. What's truly game-changing isn't just doing it faster, it's the massive reduction in human error. That leads to much higher data quality and significantly speeds up clinical trial timelines. It's a paradigm shift, really.
Wow, yeah, that sounds like it could completely reshape workflows. And another key innovation seems to be about how data is collected in the first place, this rise of e-source and direct data capture. What's that about?
Exactly. So instead of, say, writing things down on paper, then typing them in later or pulling from separate systems, data is now being collected directly from sources like wearable devices, patients' smartphones, or integrated EHRs. This shift does two big things. One, it minimizes those transcription errors, which can actually be a pretty big deal. And two, it enables real-time access to patient data, which means the trial sponsors, the regulators, they get timely insights. They can make better decisions faster. It's like having a live, accurate pulse on the trial constantly.
And building on that real-time data, especially, in the world we live in now, post-pandemic, we're seeing this big push toward decentralized trials. Hybrid models, too. Patient-focused trials, remote data collection, seems like the new normal is emerging.
And CDMS providers are definitely stepping up, evolving their platforms to fully support this. We're seeing innovations designed for remote monitoring, for home-based sample collection, virtual check-ins with doctors, seamless mobile app integration. These advances are paving the way for research that's, well, more inclusive and accessible for patients, which is huge, but also significantly more efficient for the researchers. It's fundamentally changing how trials are run, moving them out of just the clinic and more into people's everyday lives.
So when we put it all together, what we've unpacked today really shows the clinical data management system market is at this dynamic crossroads. It's fascinating. On one side, you've got relentless tech innovation, growing global research needs, stricter regulations all pushing for adoption. But on the other side, challenges like those high costs, the integration headaches, and those persistent data privacy concerns. They're constantly testing how adaptable the whole industry is.
Yeah, that's a great summary. And despite those challenges, the path forward for CDMS looks undoubtedly bright. It's filled with immense potential for growth, for continued innovation, and this powerful drive towards digital transformation. It's a really exciting space to keep an eye on.
And maybe think about this, how these advancements in CDMS don't just, speed up getting drugs to market, but how they might fundamentally reshape how patients participate in their own health journey, and ultimately the future of healthcare itself. What new possibilities open up when clinical trials become truly patient-centric, truly data-driven?
That's a profoundly impactful thought. It really is.
So what stands out to you from this deep dive? We really hope this exploration sparks some curiosity, and we definitely encourage you to keep diving into the topics that grab your interest.